Just recently, two coaches came to me after spending thousands of dollars on ads. Only issue was that their revenue was inconsistent. 1 month it'd be great, 1 month it'd be pretty much nothing. So we did something most people in the coaching space would never do. We turned their ads off completely. And within 30 days, they generated over $30,000 in cash collected. Now, the interesting part is when we first started working together, they were actually sitting on just $0 in total cash collected at the start of the month. So in this video, I'm not only going to break down what we did to turn that around, but I want to go into a bit more about why turning ads off was the thing that actually fixed their pipeline. So you got Brad, you got Risy. Here's the account CC mentorship you have here, just over 10k followers. And here you have a screenshot of $33,000 in cash collected in a single month. When I first looked at what they were doing, it was a situation I see all the time, right? They hired a growth op who, they've seen only limited success with, pretty little success with. They were spending thousands of dollars on ads monthly, but that would normally be a good thing, no? In this case, it wasn't, because the problem was that the quality of leads coming from the ad spend was not good at all. In fact, it was pretty poor. That's because the ad creatives themselves weren't actually the best, right? We were attracting people way off who we wanted to. Our ICP is coaches, right? Coaches and creators who are looking to scale and optimize their personal brands. Who were we attracting? We were attracting, 50-year-old women who found these boys attractive, found these guys attractive. Not what we want at all. That resulted in inconsistent lead quality, which meant that the bookings that were booked on were unqualified, which meant that the show rate suffered as a result. And this resulted in them becoming very overly dependent on inbound DM for closes. And their revenue would go up and down like a yo-yo as a result. So considering at this point, they'd both spent tens of thousands of dollars in ad spend with very little back, I told them, you know what, no need to spend any more, right? Let's put a pause on the ads. Let's not run any more ads, right? Let's try a different approach. So what we did, we turned them off. We turned them off completely because the real issue wasn't traffic. The real issue was they had no control over their pipeline. The first thing we did was change how these conversations were started. We implemented an audit approach. You might be thinking, what on earth is an audit approach? An audit approach is when you go in, considering our ICP is coaches who, we help coaches scale with their personal brands and their coaching programs. We'd look at someone's profile from top to bottom, assess what were the bottlenecks with their profile, provides very specific and tangible feedback for them to see a quick result. And what we'd notice is that as soon as we did that, the leads became much more engaged as they had some more win. They saw a bit of what we could do. So they were much more inclined to not only respond to us, but to work with us all the more. So instead of surface level messaging, we were actually discussing exactly what was going on in their business, what their main bottlenecks were, what was exactly holding them back. And we were actually able to diagnose that for them. We were able to look at their profile, or the setter would anyway, because we trade them appropriately to do so. They'd find out the bottlenecks and they'd tell the prospect and tell them, hey, you're losing money here, here, and here. Does that make sense? Boom. Right? What we also started doing, which most people actually miss and never actually utilize or think about, is that we started probing them. Right? Throughout the entire DM conversation with the messaging we were using, we started probing them all the way up to booking on a call. From the gap between booking on a call and actually showing to the call, we continued on. Right? And by the time they showed up to the call, they were warm and ready to pay. And the second thing we did, which is a bit cheeky, to be honest, is a bit unconventional, we started messaging their direct competitors. Right? Because what we noticed was, you might think it's a bit strange at first, but what we realized was many of our competitors' audiences were actually dealing with the exact problems that Brad and Risy fixed. And what we actually found out was in a lot of cases, their fulfillment and offers weren't actually fulfilling properly and delivering on what they promised. Right? The fulfillment just wasn't there, and we capitalized on that. So by opening up conversations there as well, we actually opened up an entire new stream of potential opportunity for completely free. And surprisingly, that ended up doing pretty well. The third thing we fixed was the booking and pre-call process. This wasn't in place at all. We had to build this up completely from scratch. And I don't even have to tell you about having a solid booking process and pre-call process is so essential for maximizing revenue in your pipeline. One of the first things we ever did was implement ManyChat and also switch to manual bookings, which we automatically found an extra, double or triple increase in bookings. And what we also did, we realized was the current setter on there was a VA. And that couldn't run, right? You can't have a B2B offer with a VA from the Philippines. It just won't work out. So what we did was we hired, trained, and placed a B2B appointment setter who would be trained from the ground up to not only be in alignment with what we were trying to do with this offer in terms of, Coaches Club and the vision they had for the brand, right? But someone who actually understood the offer, what they were trying to do long term, and actually aligned with them, right? Who's a good fit culture-wise as well. And these are just some of the resources we have in place to train. Know your why, mindset resources, setting principles. All of these, it's much more extensive than this. This is just some of the stuff we have or we used anyway. But it's very, very comprehensive. And the reason why we do that and we build out everything to the T is because we don't want setters coming onto offers with a Google Doc with a few scripts. That's not going to cut it, unfortunately. Like I mentioned earlier, they need to know exactly how and where to probe, especially with B2B. Because asking the right questions and actually progressing the conversation forward in a very succinct manner is exactly what's going to actually move the needle forward when it comes to your DMs. DMs are the main bottleneck we find across all the offers we work with. DMs, DMs, DMs. DMs and the whole setting process, whether that be even DMs and dialing. In a B2B context, this is more important than ever because you're not speaking to B2C retard leads, you're speaking to qualified prospects. Hence why we had to make sure that we were very thorough with our approach. And speaking about the same process, what we actually found worked a bit better was a slightly different approach. Although they had a solid Instagram presence individually, right? What they didn't have was long form content to support it, right? Which was an issue and which we pretty much found out, very, very soon. So what we had to do was improvise. We had to do something because they didn't have YouTube videos. They didn't even have talking head videos and many talking head videos on Instagram itself. So what we had to do was be resourceful. We had to make do with what we had at the time. Sure, we actioned for more long form content. We actioned for more talking head videos. But based on what we had, we said, you know what? What we can do here is implement this one thing. So what we ended up doing was creating a personalized VSL, essentially, right? Or a pre-call resource to send to each prospect, which had the appearance of looking personalized and very organic, right? Like someone recorded it from their phone. But this worked so well when warming the prospects up because they felt like it was natural. They felt like they were talking. By leveraging the creator's authority, although we've already been doing that throughout the entire DM conversation, to have a personalized video sent you before your call, right? And another video sent, maybe an hour before your call. That was the final few things we needed to implement to really take our close rate, from night and day, right? We started off at about 10% close rate. We finished off about 35-40%, which was a massive improvement. On top of that, we made sure every single call was being tracked with a PCFU tracker, right? So every single time these calls were taken, the 60% or 70% that didn't close, what did we do? We tracked them all. We had a DM setter reach out and we tried working them and we worked them for a DM close where we closed in the DM. Within about 30 days of making these changes, we went from just under zero in the bank account to over $30,000 in total cash collected in just 30 days. But the biggest win wasn't necessarily the revenue. It was the fact they finally had control over their pipeline and they weren't guessing. Now the approach we're taking with them is to actually reintroduce ads, but introduce it the right way, with the right creatives, with the right approach, not targeting, 60-year-old thirsty grandmas, so to speak, but qualified, high intent B2B prospects, which we can then work via the profile funnel and DM funnel, book onto calls and really run it up. And that's what's going to be the thing that actually gets us to that next milestone of 50K a month and then eventually 100K a month. So all we've done is implement 3 key changes across the entire sales process to get to this result. Ultimately, once we start introducing paid traffic again, that's when we actually start hitting those goals of what we want to get to, 50K a month, 100K a month. It's just around the corner. I have no doubt we'll be able to hit that. But yeah, I just wanted to make a quick video on what we were doing with this. If you do have any questions, shoot me a message in my Instagram down below. And if you want to book a call to audit your business in more depth, then the link is in the bio below as well.